I remember the day Daniel stopped answering my calls. It was a Tuesday, ordinary, gray, the kind of day you forget, unless something terrible happens. He'd always been the kind of son who called. Even when we argued, even when life pulled us in opposite directions, Daniel never let a week go by without hearing my voice, or letting me hear Matthew's laughter on the other end. But that week, silence. At first, I told myself he was busy. He'd been working long hours lately, and his wife, Jessica, well, she always said he needed to unplug sometimes. But after 7 days with no word, that silence started to feel wrong. It wasn't just quiet. It was hollow. By the 10th day, I drove to their house. The neighborhood was still, the kind of quiet that swallows sound. The blinds were drawn, mail piled up by the door. I rang the bell, no answer. I pressed my ear against the door. Nothing. When I finally used the spare key Daniel had given me years ago, against Jessica's wishes, mind you, the air inside hit me like a wall. It smelled stale. Unlived in. I called out, "Daniel, Matthew?" No answer. But the moment I stepped further in, I felt something shift in my stomach. A cold, prickling awareness. The house wasn't empty. There were dishes in the sink. A half-eaten bowl of cereal on the counter. Daniel's shoes by the door. But everything was frozen in time, like someone had pressed pause 2 weeks ago. The living room was clean, too clean. No toys scattered around, no signs of life. And upstairs, Matthew's bedroom door was half open. Inside, the curtains were drawn tight. The bed was unmade, a small stuffed bear on the floor. And then, I heard it. A faint sound. A whisper of movement. Someone, was shifting under the bed. I froze. "Matthew?" I whispered. The movement stopped. My heart started pounding so hard it echoed in my ears. I crouched down, my hands shaking, and lifted the edge of the blanket. 2 eyes stared back at me. Wide. Hollow. It was Matthew. His face was pale, streaked with dirt, his lips trembling. He didn't speak. He just stared. When I reached out, he flinched. "Sweetheart, it's Grandma. You're safe, baby. It's okay." He didn't move. Didn't blink. I pulled him out gently, my hands trembling. He felt so light. Too light. I wrapped him in a blanket from the couch and called 911 with my free hand. That's when I realized he hadn't spoken a single word. At the hospital, the doctors said he was malnourished but stable. But mentally, he was somewhere else. He wouldn't talk. Wouldn't respond. Just stared at the walls, silent. The police came soon after, asking questions I didn't have answers to. Where was Daniel? Where was Jessica? Had I noticed anything strange lately? Only one thing came to mind. 2 weeks before Daniel vanished, he called me late at night. His voice was low, scared. He said, "Mom, if anything happens to me, promise me you'll protect Matthew." I remember laughing nervously, asking what on earth he was talking about. He didn't explain. He just said, "Jessica isn't who you think she is." Then he hung up. That line kept echoing in my mind as the investigation began. Jessica, she was Daniel's wife of 6 years. Always polite, always composed. But behind that soft smile, I'd always sensed something, cold. She controlled everything. The finances, the house, the schedule. Daniel used to say, "It's just easier to let her handle things." When the police tried to locate her, they found her car abandoned near an old warehouse on the edge of town. No signs of struggle. No Daniel. But inside the car, in the back seat, they found a child's drawing. Matthew's. A stick figure family. Mom. Dad. Matthew. And a tall, dark figure standing behind them, all in black, with red scribbles for eyes. The caption said, "Mommy's friend." The police questioned Matthew, gently, trying to get him to explain the drawing. But he stayed silent. Just stared at the picture every time they showed it to him. Days turned into weeks. I stayed by his side, reading to him, holding his hand at night when he woke up crying but wouldn't say why. One night, as I was tucking him in, he finally whispered, "Grandma?" I froze. "Yes, sweetheart?" He looked at me, eyes wide, terrified. "Mommy said Daddy went to sleep." But he didn't wake up. I felt the blood drain from my face. "Where did Daddy go to sleep, Matthew?" He hesitated. Then pointed to the floor. "Under the bed." The next morning, I called the detective in charge, Detective Harris. They went back to the house with a forensics team. The moment they lifted the carpet in Daniel and Jessica's bedroom, the smell hit them first. They found Daniel's body hidden beneath the floorboards. Jessica had covered it perfectly, new flooring, sealed edges, furniture arranged to disguise everything. It had been there for 2 weeks. The autopsy confirmed it, blunt force trauma to the head. Daniel had been dead the day after he called me. Matthew had been in the house the whole time. Trapped. Alone. With her. The manhunt for Jessica began immediately. Turns out, she'd been withdrawing money from their joint account, slowly, strategically, for months. She'd even taken out a life insurance policy on Daniel just weeks before his death. Greed. That's what it came down to. Ambition, desperation, and greed. But what chilled me most wasn't her plan, it was how calm she'd been afterward. The cameras at a motel captured her 2 days after Daniel's death. She was smiling. Eating breakfast. Alone. Like nothing had happened. When they finally found her, 3 towns away, under a different name, she didn't resist arrest. She just looked at the officers and said, "Took you long enough." In court, she claimed it was self-defense. That Daniel had been violent, controlling. But the evidence said otherwise. There were no signs of struggle. No bruises. No defense wounds. And the most haunting piece of evidence, a recording on her phone. She'd filmed herself after it happened. Standing in front of the mirror, whispering. He should have listened. I told him not to choose them over me. Them. Meaning me. And Matthew. During the trial, I had to sit in that courtroom and listen to every gruesome detail. Every photo. Every witness. But what I remember most was the day Matthew was brought in, small, fragile, clutching his teddy bear. When the prosecutor asked if he knew who hurt his daddy, he just looked at Jessica. And for the first time since that terrible day, he spoke clearly. It was Mommy. The courtroom went silent. Jessica didn't flinch. She didn't cry. She just stared at him with that same cold, detached look she always had, as if she didn't recognize her own son. Jessica was sentenced to life in prison without parole. But justice doesn't always feel like healing. Even after the verdict, I'd wake up at night hearing Matthew's cries echo in my dreams. I'd see Daniel's smile in old photographs and wonder if I could have done something. If I'd just gone to the house sooner. If I'd listened when he said he was scared. Grief has a way of whispering what if until you start to doubt every choice you ever made. But therapy helped. Slowly. And Matthew, he's healing too. He laughs again sometimes. He draws. But he still never draws his mother. Sometimes I look back at that day, walking into Daniel's house, feeling that strange chill crawl up my spine, and I realize my instincts were right all along. A mother knows. We can sense when something's wrong, even when no one says it aloud. That's the part of this story I want people to remember. Check on your family. Listen to the small changes, the silences, the sudden distance, the things that feel off. Because behind those quiet moments, there might be something much darker happening. Something you can't imagine until it's too late. I visit Daniel's grave every Sunday. Matthew comes with me now. We bring flowers, yellow, his favorite, and sit for a while, telling him about school, about life. Sometimes, when the wind rustles through the trees, I like to think it's him, listening. Proud of how far his son has come. Because even after everything, the betrayal, the fear, the loss, we survived. Justice may have been served in court, but the real justice came in the small things. Matthew laughing again. The warmth returning to our home. The silence finally breaking. If you take one thing from my story, let it be this. Never assume silence means peace. Sometimes, it's the sound of someone hiding their pain. And sometimes, it's the sound of someone hiding the truth. Because the most dangerous betrayals, the ones that destroy lives, don't always come from strangers. They come from the people you trust the most.